Hello, folks. Back again with ancient cosmography. So this is another, reconstruction of the Red Hand of Ulster and the, kind of avatar and the ancient Egyptian, avatar of Britain as a giant holding Ireland as three hostages. Should have that somewhere on here, but in both that 5,500-year-old avatar, well, it's basically that. That that this is Britain, and his arm is Argyll Peninsula there, Knapdale and Kintyre, and he's holding Ireland by Ulster's head. And so, but basically the Red Hand of Ulster. So the Red Hand of Ulster is the Red Antrim Hills here that are shaped kind of like a hand, both in the hills themselves and also the shape of the coastline kind of traces the thumb and then the rest of the fingers together as a kind of unit. So yeah, this is a way that you can, you see the three delineated hostages as Ulster, Connacht, and Munster. And also in the original, Britain is called the White Islands in the ancient Egyptian books. And he's depicted as white, basically not colored in, like the other avatars are mostly colored in, like this. But he's just blank, so that's due to the white cliffs of Dover, I think, to the white limestone that's common in England. So it seems that England, the reason, like, when I adjust the I increase the saturation, Ireland turns more red, and so does Scotland to an extent. It's kind of purplish, but England stays kind of light green. I think that's because England has more of that white limestone in its composition. So yeah, that might be why it may have been called, Britain may have been called Finn McCool by the Celts, just as it was called Albion and Alba by the Romans, all meaning white, based on those white cliffs of Dover. So, so just looking at this this image, it makes sense that why the Irish hostages are painted with a red outline, because they are, all three of these kind of, especially these kind of outcropping promontories, are quite reddish color, just like the Red Hand. Here's another image of the Red Hand zoomed in more. So like in this version, I zoomed in on this arm, and I zoomed in on the hand, but only somewhat here. So I zoomed in on the hand more here, So, you know, you can see the thumb and the fingers and stuff there. And I mean, it's funny that, like, I mean, this, in some ways, it should be, you know, just if people doubt, they're like, okay, well, why would you get this idea that this feature of the landscape is a hand? You know, it's based on the story of the giant that throws his hand across the sea to Ireland, and, you know, he's racing with another giant, so he cuts off his own hand to win the race and throws it to the finish line to the Irish coast. So that's the Irish coast, and that's the red hand of Ulster, the bloody hand of Ulster, and the arms, you know, Argyll, Kintyre, and Knapdale. And let's see. So this, you know, this shows the red hand of Ulster. And this is a travel poster from 1960, I believe. You know, inviting people to come to Ulster. So it's hard to read this, but you can see the giant, you know, with his arm, bent arm that's like, and the stump where he cut off his hand, and then his hand that he threw on the Irish coast. So it's not oriented all correct, you know, it's not all oriented correctly. Like, of course, the hand actually points backwards, the fingers actually point backwards towards the arm, and the arm points more directly towards the hand. But other than that, you know, there's like an action shot, so they're kind of just moving around, and so it's pretty good. And then it says, I think it has the description of the text. So, product information. This travel poster was originally used to promote tourism. The poster shows an image of the famous Red Hand of Ulster. It says on it, once upon a time, two chieftains disputed possession over the beautiful lands of Ulidia, Ulster. They raced across the waters of Moyle between Scotland and Dalriada. So that part is, I think they're mixing some things up here, because they're saying, like, Dalriada was a kingdom that spanned both sides. So Dalriada included all of this and this. But usually when it refers just to the Antrim side, it's spelled with a T, Dalriata. And since this spells it with a D, then that's at least not the standard way. Usually, at least if you're referring to the Antrim side, you call it Dalriata. But either way, it refers to the hand, because the Dalriadan part of Antrim was basically just the hand. The winner, and so the fact that he's talking about the waters of Moyle, the waters of Moyle are literally just the water between this stump and this hand. At least that's the main point of the waters of Moyle and the Straits of Moyle. So, you know, it basically doesn't give any other choice but for it to represent these things. The waters of Moyle, the winner to be the first who touched land. A desperate race was won through the victor severing his hand and flinging it ashore. Today, Ulster is even more appealing. Come to this romantic holiday land. This was like right before the Troubles really kicked off. The age of the original travel poster dates to 1960 approximately. So, so this fact that specifies the waters of Moyle, which is really right here, gives a good hint. And like everything around here is mythologized. Like the Giant's Causeway is, right up here somewhere. And, it's very mythologized, of course, and it involves giants. It's said to be like the Giant's Causeway. It's all the hexagonal basalt columns that are said to represent a road basically from Ulster to Scotland. So again, it relates to giants, a road for giants built by giants. So it's like, again, it's referring to giants passing between Scotland and Ulster. And then, the Isle of Man. I guess this, the Isle of Man, is also relates to the same mythology where they say that, it was created by some giant. And then, there's another little island near the stump that's referred to as a spoon because of its shape. So, like, mythological, metaphorical depictions of islands and topography around here is basically the rule rather than the exception. So it's certainly shouldn't surprise anybody that would include the Red Hand of Ulster as well as these two features. The Red Hand of Ulster. It's the reddest hand in town. So here's it's like you only get the truth from, not from Wikipedia necessarily, but from these little random things. Like even this. So this refers to it as two chieftains, but the URL for this says Finn McCool, who's the giant. It says Finn McCool travel poster. So whoever made the URL seemed to realize that this is a giant and seemed to consider him to be Finn McCool, and may well be correct. Here's another one. It's like this one. Well, I guess that's just a travel poster, but sometimes it's like painted on murals around Ulster. Here's one. Not sure where it's from, probably Belfast or whatnot. The strangest victory in all history, the Red Hand of Ulster. Harriman O'Neill racing a rural chieftain for possession of Ireland. So the part that's interesting about this so far is that it says for possession of Ireland, which makes a lot more sense. That's because, and it fits with the Egyptian avatar, of course, where he is the Lord of all of Ireland, even though he's only holding Ulster by his hand. He's holding Leinster by his harness, which is Wales. So, first man to touch chieftain for racing a rural chieftain for possession of Ireland became the first man to touch its soil by cutting off his own hand, cutting of his own hand and hurling it ashore. His sacrifice made Harriman the first king of Ulster. Well, it should make him king of Ireland. So anyway, it's kind of funny. But yeah, I think this is correct, that he is actually becoming Lord of Ireland, not just of Ulster like the other one says. I mean, it includes Ulster, but and the hand is even placed, the point of it is placed in more or less the right spot, because the hand is basically somewhere around here. And here's another Loyalist mural. They call it the Loyalist areas, the Unionist Protestant areas, working class areas have a lot of these type of murals, like the area I lived in for a month there in Belfast. And so this one, it shows the boat race across the sea, across the Irish Sea, and throwing of the hand, which, in this case, the hand itself is not red per se, it's bloody. And so it's the version where it's the bloody hand that leaves a mark on the hills. And, that would be basically the red of the Antrim Hills. And so, let's see, and in this version, it's the right hand, whereas in the other travel poster, it was the left hand. It's kind of arbitrary. You could kind of say either way, depending. But at least it confirms that popularly, there's a bunch of different stories of what the Red Hand of Ulster signifies. But one, the main one that I know of is the one of the race across the sea to be first to touch the shore. And based on these murals, it's clear